This or that? Why do I have to choose? I'll change my mind anyway. Hello book lovers, welcome to Uncommon Reader. My name is Daniela and I come to you this week with a bonus video in the middle of the week because I was tagged by the My Rumpus on this book tag called This or That, created by Ross, that's Skelly Dandling About the Books, and Elisabeth of Bookings and Books. And this book tag is dedicated to nonfiction book recommendations, specifically talking about people. Pick the prompts that appeal to you or allow you to enjoy being opinionated. Hey, I'm Italian, of course I'm opinionated. Do mention good books and bad as you go along. Okay, are you ready? All right. Big, fat, or detailed biographies, or short and succinct, or short, it's just easier to pronounce, short biographies. Yes, that's why I'm decided. Maybe I would really like very thorough biographies of characters and people I really, really like, and maybe shorter versions of people I might be interested in, but not completely drawn by them. So I don't know, does that count? If I had to pick, maybe I should go for the more detailed biography, and then if I'm not interested, I'll just skip a few pages. All right, is that good? Do I have any examples here? Yes, I do. I have The Agony and the Ecstasy by Irving Stone, and this is the story of Michelangelo. So this is a very small and pocket edition, but I actually read the library version. I don't know if this is an abridged, but it's very actually small. The small font probably does have the complete book. And this one has, let's see how many pages. Yeah, it's still 700 pages, 750. The one I read at the library was around 900, but it was a bigger book, printed, with a bigger font. And yes, this is a really detailed story of Michelangelo's life, and I totally adore it, and especially his younger years when he was living in the Medici family in Florence, so in his friendship with Lorenzo de Medici's daughter. So it's so finely detailed, and if you like art and Renaissance art, you must read this book, absolutely. I have other biographies here that I'm very keen on reading. This is on Italo Calvino, who's pretty famous in US as well, I hope. More intellectual, but at the same time, his style was appealing also to a very young generation. In fact, we study his books in school because he had a style that was very much like a fairy tale sometimes, but he had very important messages hidden in his books. And I would love to do a video dedicated to this immense writer, and one of these days I might just put it together for you. Next question, celebrity memoirs or average Joe memoirs? So if you mean by celebrities, actors and singers, no, I don't think I'm interested. I'd just rather watch a movie. Like I really enjoyed Elton John and Elvis movies lately. I spoke about on my first video again about Belle DaCosta Green, who was the librarian for JP Morgan, and she kind of had an ordinary life in the sense that she wasn't that famous, but she accomplished so much. There's an exhibition in New York at the JP Morgan Museum. So the My Rumpus, you might want to check it out and let me know and maybe film inside, because I don't think I'll come to New York that soon. But I would love to see this one because the book, I really like this book. So to answer the question, I would say an average Joe that becomes a celebrity. How about that? I knew I would not do well with this book tag. Next question, complete correspondence or selected letters? Again, it depends who we're talking about. If it's someone who I really, really care, like Vincent van Gogh, yes, I want the complete package. And this is his letters to his brother. And it has like 900 letters. I haven't even started. You see how clean and pristine this book is? I bought it like a couple of years ago in Amsterdam when I went to visit the Van Gogh Museum. The third floor, the bookstore in that museum, it is just so dangerous because you find such precious books you'll never find anywhere else. In fact, during that visit, I also bought letters from Cézanne to a lot of his friends, and Balzac and Émile Zola and other painters, Pissarro and other people. So I assume this is also very complete, and of course is enriched by his drawings and handwriting as well right here. I don't know if this is available worldwide, but it's published by Thames and Hudson. So here we go. Let's move on. Memoirs written when the events are fresh, or memoirs written with hindsight? Well, I kind of think you need a little bit of time to think through the events and reflect, and being able to also collect all sorts of information and have different perspectives. I can give you an example. Unfortunately, this book is not yet published in US that I know of. I looked for it because I want to gift it when I was in California last fall. I looked for V13 by Emmanuel Carrère, who's one of my favorite writers right now. He's French, and he was in court while the hearings for the terrorist acts in Paris in 2015 for, you remember, the bistro and the Bataclan and the explosions and the many people that died. So they did this trial in this area that they called V13, and he assisted to all the hearings. And this book was my favorite book of 2023 because he was able to really look at all the facts with like a 360 degrees angle. He talked about the terrorists and how they managed to set it all up, and also about their backgrounds and why they got involved in Al-Qaeda. They talked about, of course, the families, the victims, exploring the law system in France and how also the families got compensated. It's so filled with details, but at the same time, this author was able to kind of look at things not with a judgmental eye. Of course, there are moments where you feel all the anger and not understanding, but with the want to understand. Why do you go to the extent of killing yourself to hurt someone else? So I found it very illuminating, and if you had a chance to find this book somehow, if you're interested in current affairs and terrorism, I think that's a must-read book. Next question, another one I don't know how to answer. Gossipy biographies or scholarly biographies? Ideally, a bit of both, because you want the true facts, but you want to have sort of like a narration into it. An example. There's a book, I don't know the English name, I'll put the cover here, that tells the story of Sylvia Beach, who was the first founder of Shakespeare and Company. And she opened the first one in 1919 in Paris and had to close it in 1938 when the Nazi occupied Paris. And that bookstore was the meeting point for a lot of artists from USA. Hemingway, Gertrude Stein, Scott Fitzgerald, so you name it. And also James Joyce was among the people who Sylvia Beach was friends with. And actually, Sylvia Beach published the first edition of the Ulysses by James Joyce. So this book, this biography, was very thorough. It just tells that 20 years of her life. But a lot of it was imagined, especially her relationship with Adrienne Monnier, who was another bookstore owner that helped her during that time, and they had a relationship. So I think a lot of the exchange between them was fictional, and I think I liked it a lot because the story flew really, really smoothly. And so you could be involved as well in the affair of the hearts with her, but also with these special friendships with these American authors. Then I read her book dedicated to Shakespeare and Company, and I found the book to be very flat and kind of boring because she was only talking about the store and the various people that visited, various encounters, but she did not share anything about her personal life. And I found it to be almost didascalic, like you're looking at a photo and you have a little writing description of the photo. So to me, it wasn't emotional. I did read it because I was curious to see what else she would share, but to compare the two, I mean, there's no comparison. I totally love Carrie Maher's book version, and I now look forward to read this book by Jasmine Dartsnick, telling the story, and it's narrated like fiction of Farrokhzad, who was a famous Iranian poet. This woman that only lived until she was 32. Unfortunately, we lost her pretty soon, but it's written, not like a memoir or a biography. It's narrated as a historical novel. So I'm very curious to read this one. I picked it up from the library. Did I answer this question? Okay. Diaries of Ordinary Life or Diaries of Extraordinary Events? Well, should I say more? I mean, this is ordinary life, but somehow, you live your life and you never know that your life can be memorable. So, hail to ordinary. Yes, of course, we want extraordinary events as well, like I just talked about V13, but for me, it's just it gives me such a kick to see how an ordinary life can transform itself in something really big. So I'm a dreamer, what can I say? Next question, Arty memoirs or sporting memoirs? I don't think I've ever read any sporting memoirs, not even the most famous of all, I think the one dedicated to Agassi. So I would definitely go with Arty memoirs, and I've shown you the ones that I have. This is a book especially dedicated to the friendship between Van Gogh and Gauguin, but you won't find this book unless you're in Italy. He's a very famous expert on Impressionism, and unfortunately it's not translated. This book is such a dear book for me. It made me cry. It was so heartbreaking. So I read a few others. Something about Manet, I think the Lost Diary of Manet, but that was sort of invented, so it wasn't really authentic. So I can definitely also talk about books that I didn't like. I mean, I did like it in a way that I imagined this could be what he would say, but then I got so disappointed at the end, saying that this was just an imaginary diary because he didn't actually have a memoir. So, whatever. Next question, greedy autobiographical writing or inspirational autobiographical writing? Guess a mix of both. It's nice to be inspired, you know, someone is struggling and then he succeeds, and then you want to have a little bit of something, some mojo in there that makes you do all the things. So, man, it's so difficult to pick. So, yes, it has to be a bit of both. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at this book tag. Next question. Biographies of historical figures or biographies of contemporary figures? Definitely historical ones. I have no doubt on this one because I love knowing more about history. History was one of my favorite topics when I was in school. And I'm really drawn by historical novels, so I really like to know what happened in the past because I think it helps us view our present, you know, and understand maybe where we're going in the future. I right now I don't want to know, but oh God, this is so heavy. Oh my God. See what I mean? Alexander the Great. So this book I bought in US, and it's one of the books, that very few books that I carried back with me, and that's why my personal library doesn't have a lot of books. So, you know, with time we'll get there. But this is really, really heavy, and it's written by Peter Green, and it's just a complete biography of Alexander the Great. And I'm not sure I have others here, but I do like biographies, but they need to be sort of written and narrated, like I was telling you about Sylvia Beach. Next question. Memoirs of happy days or memoirs of tragic days? I mean, it's like, of course we have happy days and we have tragic days. That's life. I don't know if it ever exists a memoir that only talks about happy days. I will let you know when I read this book by Oriana Fallaci, who was, I think she's pretty known in US. She lived in New York for many years. I think she moved from 1965, and then she moved back to Italy when she was diagnosed with cancer, and she lived her last days in Tuscany. And this book is called Journey in America, and I think it's a description of her first years living in USA. And I'm very curious to hear her perspective. Of course, we lived in different realities, and she was probably, you know, in the posh environment in New York and Hollywood, and I was just like, you know, Silicon Valley wife. So I think I'm curious because I want to compare everyday life examples, you know, of how things are different between living in America and living in Italy. So I'm curious to see how many happy memories she's going to share and how many tragic days. So the last question, it's a bonus prompt from Elisabeth. The complete diary of Samuel Pepys, over 4,000 pages, or selections from the diary of Samuel Pepys, which can be as short as 120 pages. So I had no clue who this gentleman was, and I went to look on Google, and I found out that this man was famous for his diary, an amazing historical document that details the main events in Restoration England, including the Great Plague in 1965 and 66, and the Great Fire of London in the same years. So yeah, give me the short version, thank you. I don't need all the greedy details. Thank you so much. We're done. Whew, that was tough. Thank you so much, my Rumpus, for tagging me on this one and giving this sweet shout out to my channel. I thank you all for watching, and I'll wait for you on the next video here on Uncommon Reader. And I'll wait for you in the comments as well. See you soon. Happy reading.